How's it going, Raider Nation? It's JT coming at you with another episode of the Raidercast, your podcast for everything silver and black. Today, as I said in yesterday's video, I'm going to be discussing the bunch of free agents that are Raiders currently or were this season, but are now free agents going into this offseason. Like I said in yesterday's video, these are already kind of like revealed in my Monday mock draft video. So if you didn't check out that video, definitely go check that out. It was a very fun video to make, and I talked a lot about just a mock draft, mock offseason kind of. But I want to go more in depth into the players that I talked about there. There's one player I'm not going to talk about today, and that is Jarrett Stidham, because Jarrett Stidham, I realize, is a very big wild card if we keep him or not, because even though he knows the system, if we bring in Tom Brady and we draft a rookie, there's no point in having Jarrett Stidham there except to sit the bench in the third string and be a practice squad player, which he won't be worth. He's going to be worth a relatively solid contract, not anything crazy expensive, but he's going to be worth too much to have him be the third string guy, or it's not worth it to have a rookie be the third string guy, because then he's not going to get enough experience being in the first and second team and have the potential to start or play if the starter gets injured. So, with all that said, I'm not talking about Stidham today. I don't know anything about re-signing him, but these are the players that I think we should absolutely 100% re-sign with some contract numbers, just stats. I'm using PFF, so if you don't like that, that's too fucking bad. But if you like this type of content, if you like the type of unfiltered silver and black content I create, definitely hit the subscribe button. Definitely like this video. It helps me. It helps me know that you guys are enjoying my content. And it's the type of content that I don't give a shit what I say. So again, if you like that type of content, subscribe here. But talking about the free agents that I want to keep, the list goes Josh Jacobs, Mac Hollins, Rock Ya-Sin, Daron Harmon, Jermaine Illuminor, Denzel Perryman, Jakob Johnson, and Andrew Billings. One player I'm going to get just out of the way now. Jakob Johnson's kind of a given. He was brought over from the Patriots. He's A, not expensive. B, we need a fullback. C, he knows the system. And four, there's not much to talk about. He's a fullback. He's a pretty damn good run blocking fullback. He's not a very good pass catcher, not very good in the pass block game too much, but he's a very good run blocker, and he was a big reason why Josh Jacobs had such a big season that he did. And he's worth to bring back, even though PFF has him the 5th out of 6 fullbacks in the league, in terms of grade. I feel like that doesn't really matter because he fits the scheme. He knows what to do. He knows his job. And he does his job pretty damn well for what we need him to do. So I'm not going to talk about him too much because he's not really a major player. He's not a major, like I said, he's a silent major player. All fullbacks are like that, but it's not as important to talk about because he's pretty much guaranteed to come back. I don't see a reason why we would ever let him walk, and I don't think he would ever really find a spot to go to in free agency. So, moving on to the guy himself, Josh Jacobs. He had an insanely good 2022 season. He was snubbed from the Offensive Player of the Year list, although I understand because of record and you need to win to be put on those types of lists. But he was all-pro, first team all-pro. He was a Pro Bowl. He's a Pro Bowler this season. PFWA, all NFL team, stuff like that. He's gotten all the honors. He's a rushing champion, and he deserves all the recognition he's getting. And what SpotTrack, who's a pretty accurate, in my opinion, salary cap website, has him only being valued at $13 million a year, which, in my opinion, is a fucking steal, and that is absolutely the ballpark of what we should sign him to. I do not want to see us sign him to a Christian McCaffrey type of deal, because that would be just kill the cap. And although Christian McCaffrey is a special player, Josh Jacobs hasn't had that continued success that Christian McCaffrey had before he got his contract. Obviously, he had injuries after that, and it's a big reason why you don't want to get locked into a long-term deal with running backs. So I expect, although they say a 4-year deal, I think it's going to be around a 2 to 3 year deal because that's consistent with what the front office has been giving out so far. Obviously, Devontae Adams, Max Crosby got longer than that, but Darren Waller, Chandler Jones, Hunter Renfrow, and even Derek Carr only had 3-year deals. So I think that'll be about the range that we're going to get, a 2 to 3 year deal worth about 12 to 13 million, maybe a little bit more just because it is going to be a shorter deal. But he said himself, I want to be a Raider, I want to stay here, and I think we're going to allow that to happen. There's no way we let him walk anyway. We're going to franchise tag him and then work on a deal. And there's really not much else to say. He was a fucking beast. His receiving grade is low, but he had a 91.6 PFF grade. That is elite. That was the number one rank for a rushing back. He was the best running back in the league. There's no reason why he shouldn't come back, and he's a big reason why our offense even succeeded last season. So, but the next player to talk about on this list that I have right here is Mack Hollins. Now, Mack Hollins by no means is a game-changing player, but as we saw multiple times on special teams, he's a very, very good offense and special teams player. He had a career year this season. He had by far the most receiving yards in his career. And I think that now with Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, Devontae Adams all being healthy, and maybe add in another wide receiver in there in free agency other than someone like fucking Keelan Cole, I think he's going to be he's a very, very solid third, fourth option overall, like just not even talking about like wide receiver specifically, but just on the team. He's a very good fourth option target. He had relative consistency with his hands. He wasn't great at running routes, but again, as a fourth option player, he's really solid. He's very valuable in the special teams. He's one of the best gunners in the league. Didn't have a great grade. He had a 63.8, but his rushing was a 77.3, but he was four carries for 48 yards is kind of impressive. But he's a great blocker too. He's down to get down and dirty, down and gritty, and that type of like run blocking wide receiver type of thing. And he's only going to be around like $2 to $3 million in a contract, and probably a 1 year, maybe 2 year if we want to extend it a little bit more. He is not super old. He's born in 93, so that makes him just about 30. So I think a 1 to 2 year deal is just right up his alley, and it'll probably be about $2 million a year, which is A-okay by me. I think he's earned that contract. He had a career year, like I said, and he's a very valuable in that special teams game. And now the third player I want to talk about, which is for some reason a controversial player. Rock Ya-Sin was by far our best corner when he was on the field. He allowed only 1 touchdown this season, did not allow a lot of receptions per catch, and he was, like I said, probably our best corner and just overall DB. Him and Harmon were probably the most consistent in my opinion. Hobbs had a very down year, and he had some really bad plays after injury. Ya-Sin didn't play a lot towards the end of the season because he had a pretty bad knee injury, I believe it was, but he is absolutely worth to re-sign. I don't know if we're going to sign him for a long contract, but there's a reason why we traded for him, and it's because he's very young and has a lot of potential. He was born in 96, so that means he's younger, on the younger side, but Spotrac has him at about a 10-year average annual salary, which $10 million for what was a lockdown corner, a top 10 NFL next-gen stats lockdown corner when healthy. I'll take that, especially if we get a corner in the draft or we get one in free agency that is even better, maybe a Jalen Ramsey type of player, maybe we get like Christian Gonzalez or something like that at 7. But he had overall a 65.7 PFF grade, which was ranked at 50 out of 118 possible corners. So he played pretty solid, and I think that our cornerback room will be a little bit more improved, especially if we get that, we need a top dog CB1. I don't know if Ya-Sin can be a true CB1. I think he'll be excellent as a CB2 because he can lock down and get rid of that second target player. And just have the CB1 deal with like the really, really good player. But I think Ya-Sin, even as a CB1, will be a very good corner for us. So I think it's very much worth to lock him down to a 2 to 3 to maybe even 4 year deal, which Spotrac has us doing. And that $10 million annual salary is only ranked on 20th in the league, 19th in the league. So that's pretty good for the type of production we got out of Ya-Sin this season. Now, moving on to the next guy, and that is Duron Harmon. By far, our best safety on the team. He tied for the most interceptions on the team, and he's a seasoned veteran. Our defense got better when he had the green dot on, even though it went from really bad to just bad. It was still an improvement. He is older, so I don't know how long the contract is going to be. Probably another 1 year deal, and so that way he has the option to retire after the season and not have a big cap hit. But like Mack Hollins, the type of production we got out of him for the price is great. $3 million is what Spotrac has it as, which I will fucking take. That is well worth his contract. That is well worth the play that we got. 2 picks. He made some great plays on the ball. Honestly, he was it could have been the reason why we won the Cardinals game, but we don't know what the fuck that happened after that big fourth down play he had. So, but overall, like I said, 2 picks, and year 32, he had a pick 6 as well, which sealed the game versus the Texans. So you got to take that, man. You got to take that guy back. He knows the system, and plus he can really help Trayvon Murray to continue to hopefully develop, and maybe even the younger, safeties you bring in, or even just people to get acclimated into the system and to know what they need to do and what their job is. So PFF had him at a 72.3, which actually ranked 22 out of 89 possible safeties, which is upper quarter of the NFL. So I'll take that. Let's definitely bring him back. I think he was a very solid addition this offseason. I thought he was an underrated signing overall, and I think we should absolutely bring him back for another 1 year, $3 million deal, just because of the veteran leadership he can bring and also the playmaking ability he still has, despite his age being 32 years old. But next up, we have Jermaine Illuminor, who is another very controversial player in Raider Nation for absolutely zero reason. He locked it down, especially the last few weeks. He allowed 0 sacks to Nick Bosa. He allowed 0 sacks to Matt Judon. He allowed 0 sacks to, Frank Clark. I mean, he was really, really good the last few weeks. And honestly, him and Colton Miller are absolutely our tackles for next season. His price will be about $5 million a year, about a little closer to $6 million a year, which is absolutely fine by me because he had a 75.3 PFF grade. He ranked in the top 4 by the end of the season in terms of PFF grade for right tackle. So he's a top 4 right tackle, and his right tackle contract will only be about 13. His penalties were really bad. He had a ton of penalties, but if he can get those shored up, and he was a backup. He wasn't very, he didn't play a lot. So as long as he can get those penalties, and he knows it, he's literally tweeted out, I need to short my penalties, but everything else about my game is good. So believe in me, and I can do that for you guys. And he wants to come back, and I think we should bring him back because he was an absolute lockdown right tackle towards the end of the season. And him combined with a better interior with Parham and maybe a new center and a new guard should do wonders for our own line. Next up, we have Denzel Perryman, who is an absolute beast when healthy, like I said, and he had 2 interceptions, which is tied for the Raiders, tied for the most on the Raiders, along with Daron Harmon, and I believe it was a Meek Robertson maybe. So which is kind of sad. 6 interceptions from 3 different players. But he had a 74.2 overall PFF grade, which ranked 18 out of 81. So he's in like the top 5th of the league in terms of linebacker grades. His coverage isn't great. Again, pass rush pretty solid this season, honestly. He had I think a sack. He had 1 sack in there, and he had an 80.5 run defense grade, which is just superb. He's a great run defender, which is exactly what Patrick Graham loves. So we should definitely bring him back. And like I said, for Daron Harmon, he's a veteran presence. He knows this defense, and he was pretty damn good in this defense, and bringing him back would be very, very smart. Spotrac didn't have a contract for him. That's why I haven't talked about it. But it should be a relatively cheaper deal. He is getting older. He's definitely on the older side, so it'll definitely be like a 1 to 2 year deal. But I think we should absolutely bring him back. Even though he had that injury towards the end of the season, he should be fine by the start of next season. And honestly, even if he gets replaced by younger players, he's still that veteran presence that we can rely on. If the rookies start to fail or if someone gets injured, he can come in and be a real force on that defense. And finally, the last player I'm going to talk about, like I said, I'm going to skip over Jakob, so I talked about him before. We have Andrew Billings, by far our best defensive tackle this season, arguably our second best defensive lineman this season behind Max Crosby. He just was a consistent playmaker in the run game. He was a solid pass rusher. He was definitely better than I thought he was going to be. He has 2 sacks, which is terrible, but also tied for I think the second most on the team, third most on the team. It went Max with 12.5, Chandler with 4.5, and then I think Andrew Billings with 2. So despite that, he's really good, 72.3 run defense grade, pass rush very solid. He did all positive numbers in terms of grading, and just overall had a very solid season. And I believe that we need to bring him back because he's definitely a force in that run game. Ask TDL. I know they love him over there too, so definitely go check out anything that they have on him because he is really, really good. But those are the players I want to bring back. Let me know down in the comments if you guys agree or disagree with my list, and I will see you guys in the next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe here as well for more Unfiltered Raiders content, and for more content just like this whole offseason is going to be just like this type of video, so definitely like and subscribe for that, and I will see you guys, like I said, in the next video. Peace out, Raider Nation.